Good evening, Ezekiel. Can you hear me?
Hi, good evening, Rupkatu. I can hear you loud and clear. I'm having a network challenge from my end, but I was able to resolve.
Good evening, Yahuza. Thank you so much for joining. So sorry about that. I guess Ezekiel as well is having network challenges.
Okay, that is great.
Yeah. So you're welcome. I guess Ezekiel is having network challenges. So because I can see still the flyer at the so maybe I guess we'll just use the audio without the video.
Okay, that is fine.
All right, thank you so much. So good evening everyone. Good evening our audience. Thank you so much for joining us. How has been our week? We are approaching the weekend tomorrow. So I welcome us all to our weekly webinar series. Following our last week's series, we will continue with our last week's series with the topic child labor and street begging. Together with me is still our guest for last week, Yehuza Ismail. So I'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself. So Yehuza, you're welcome. Good evening once again.
Okay, well, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rufkatu, for actually considering me to be part of the guest to have this wonderful discussion on how we can mitigate the impact of street begging and child labor across Borno State at large. My name is Yahuza Ismail. I work with Center for Advocacy, Transparency and Accountability Initiative as the education manager, a young person passionate about promoting social change using the locally driven approaches. I like working as a volunteer to see how I can address a lot of societal issues within the grassroots communities. Thank you and over.
Thank you so much, Yahuza, for this wonderful introduction. So our audience, as you hear, Yahuza is an advocate of change. So I assure you that you will enjoy this section. So sit back and enjoy this section with us. So thank you, Yahuza. So without wasting much time, I will go straight to the question so that we won't take much time because I realize that the network issues of network today is really bad. So we'll just go straight to the questions. So following up the last week's series, we had a lot and lot of discussions around issues of child labor and street begging, and you've come up with wonderful ideas of how we are going to mitigate these challenges, all the things we need to do. So thank you so much for that. So following this week, the first question I have for you is how can the government and organization effectively reduce child labor? Nehuza, can you hear me? I guess I lost Nehuza. Hello, Nehuza, can you hear me?
Okay,
Hello,
well,
Yehuza.
hello. I'm actually having a network
Yeah,
problem
so
from my end, but I
sorry.
was able to resolve. Please, can you come again?
All right. Thank you. So sorry about the nectar issue. Is quite understandable because same with Ezekiel, he's also having network issues. So following the as I earlier said, following up the last week series, we had a wonderful section with you. We talk about the issues of regarding child labor and street begging, and you come up with wonderful ideas on how we can mitigate these challenges, and how the street begging and child labor affects children. So following this week, I have this question for you. I said, how can governments, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can
Oh,
hear you. Go ahead.
okay. I said this week question, my first questions for you tonight. How can governments and organization effectively reduce child labor?
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rufkato, for the wonderful question. As I actually responded in our previous session held last week, I discussed and talked about the responsibilities and those that are responsible in addressing issues of child labor and street begging in Borno State,
Yeah.
whereby I made mention of the government, CSOs, international organizations, and other individuals. So I think the best way for government and organizations to address child labor and street begging is through enhancing our educational system across the state, whereby the education is becoming more accessible for everybody across the communities in the state, whereby the educations can be in a form of more skills. Actually, we value much of our certificate rather than the skills that young people need to have. When we look at the
Yeah.
current trend and the current nature of our economic, the introduction of AI, artificial intelligence, is actually
Yeah.
something freaking that can actually lead to a lot of people losing their job by 2030, according to a research. I think around 2030 or 2050, they come up with a
Yeah.
research where they indicated that a lot of young people are now at the verge of losing their jobs. And the more we lose our job, the more we are going back to the poverty. So I think it will be a nice thing for the government and other international organizations to strengthen the capacity of young people through enhancing their educational skills with the current skills across the globe. Then secondly, through providing access to quality water, basic healthcare services, and empower girls and women. Through empowerment of girls and women, I think it's also going to be a major way of addressing street begging and child labor. When young women and girls are empowered, they can be able to take care and cater for some of their younger people needs and be able to take care of their children. When we look at the global things based on the insurgency that happened in Borno State,
Yeah.
it's quite unfortunate for you to go to a community. When you just identify a community, you can get to understand that there are a number of women that lost their husband as a result of the insurgency, compared to the number
Yeah.
of male that lost their wife as a result of the insurgency. This is a clear indication that if women and young girls are not empowered, there is a tendency of the children to be on the street begging and looking for a way to feed their family and to support their own family and their younger ones. So also,
Yeah.
when we improve the child nutrition, when we improve their nutritions, we are trying to address the basis of poverty. As I rightly stated in our previous conversation last week, I discussed
Yeah.
around poverty. People only look at poverty in the aspect of people don't have a single dollar in a day, while
Yeah.
poverty is beyond people having a single dollar in a day. We can measure poverty according to the multinational index IMEX. They talk about poverty around which house, what are the nature of the houses or building you stay, what kind of meal do you eat, how many times do you eat your daily meal, what is the source of fire for you to cook food. Are you using the animal dung, are you using the LPG, are you using the firewood? All these are some of the major way of accessing and understanding the level of poverty in a particular community or your particular state. So by so doing, we can get to realize and know, which will give us an access to address the root cause of the issues across our communities and across our various locations. Likewise, I think the last point I need to also reiterate is prevent child marriage. Whenever we have a number of child marriage within our community, This is a clear
Yeah.
indication of a person whereby she will lose maybe her husband at the early age, or we are not
Yeah.
praying or hoping so, and it's not generally, it's just on my perception. Someone can easily lose her
Yes.
husband at a tender age, whereby she can be on the street for her to look for what she can get and many more. So all these are some of the major challenges and major issues. And when the government and the organizations are coming up with a suitable programs where they will encourage and empower gender equality and promote girls and women empowerment, this can help in addressing the level of poverty across the communities. We should always advocate in our programs and a lot of our projects and activities for us to understand the child right and importance of education in reducing the number of child marriage, and also reducing the issue of street begging and child labor. By so doing, when our younger people are well empowered with the relevant skills and knowledge, they can be able to be more productive and understand to face the reality. They will be able to understand and know that this is their right and this is harmful to them whenever whatever they are doing. According to the global, according to the ILO, International Labour Organization, is stated that 1 out of 4 of children are engaged in child labor activities, which is very dangerous to their health in terms of
Yeah.
psychological and physical abilities of the children. So when the government and the organizations are coming up with activities that will strengthen their abilities and their capacities in terms of skill acquisitions, these children will be able to understand their potentials, they will be able to understand their rights and many more. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Yahuza, for elaborating more on this. The issue of empowerment is one of the crucial issue that is affecting us, because if we look at it, a lot of these young people, and those children that are on the street begging, if they are being empowered, if they are being empowered with different skill, I don't think we will find a lot of children begging on the street, or acts of child labor. So thank you so much for this. Then you know the how our education system is. So how can what role can education play in preventing child labor and street begging, promoting children rights?
Okay, well, thank you so much again. I like using the word to be thanking you actually for the
Oh,
good questions. So,
yes.
I think education has a vital role in curtailing the number of child labor and street begging in Borno State at large. Children who have access to good quality
Yeah.
educations are better able to secure the skills and knowledge necessary to obtain a well paying job. This can be an avenue for them to know their rights and break the cycle of poverty and exploitation. So the moment children
Yeah.
are deemed with the belief that we are actually, they don't even know their right, they don't even have some of the relevant skills and the knowledge which will help them in securing a better job in Nigeria. So, and I also discussed around we should come up with an idea or programs that encourage skill acquisitions program rather than only studying the ABC and acquiring the certifications. So I think
Yeah.
this will play a very good avenue if the government will be able to come up with suitable curriculum which will enhance and strengthen young people to have other skills that will give them a valuable paying job. And if the government can come up with a curriculum whereby it has to do with the age of children, which will not exploit the children at a tender age to the streets or into child labor activities. I believe we have 3 categories of age in Nigeria. We have from the 0 to 5, which is the infant, from 6 to 14 years, which are the non-reproductive and non-productive age, which can easily be enforced or induced to serve as child labor as a result of poverty for them to provide something to their family. So when children are well empowered and educated, actually education is a very great empowerment. When they are empowered with the skills, with the knowledge, with the idea, this can help them to be productive and innovative in seeing how they can come up with innovative solutions in addressing the global issues. And this can help reduce the impact and consequences of child labor across the state. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Yahuza, for elaborating on this. As you said, skill acquisition is part of the important part of education. But most people, if we talk about education, they are thinking like it's the only knowledge that is being gotten in the forward of classroom, not knowing education can also be skill acquisition, getting empowered in so many in different skills. That's also education. So thank you so much for saying this. I hope our audience that are listening will be taking note of all that you have been saying. So thank you so much for that. And
Want to have hello, please, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so can I continue?
Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, so when we discuss about education is the only formal way whereby someone can go and learn a b c d 1 2 3 for how to make calculations, mathematics, and many more. We have our formal way of education, we have informal and non-formal educations, and we have our cultural way of acquiring education. When we go by our history of education, there are a lot of ways and a lot of ideas and information whereby it's stated, which each and every one of them has a crucial value and play a vital role in addressing our issues. Actually, before the evolutions of formal educations in Nigeria, there are other ways that people used to acquire education, which is the non-formal way. People used
Yeah.
to learn other skills which can serve as their way of income. It can be a way, an alternative for them to end their life and end their living and many more. And most at times when we look at it, parents play a vital role in empowering their children with education, which is in the non-formal their time and support their children for them to understand and know what are some of the interests of their young children. This can go a long way in addressing and curtailing the number of child labor and number of children being exposed on the street. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for this. And parents also have a great role to play also because charity begins at home. If parents will not only focus on the formal education, but also if a child or children are going to the formal education, and parents should ensure that the children acquire these informal skills and empower the children for the better future. So thank you so much, Yahuza, for this. Then the next question is, what are the challenges enforcing the child labor laws and regulation, looking at our context in Borno State? We live in cultural and religious states. So how what are the challenges of enforcing child labor and regulations?
Okay. The challenge is actually, when we discuss around child labor and street begging, I talk around some sensitive. There are a little bit sensitive issues whereby we need to consider. And when we
Yeah.
discuss around child labor and street begging, we need to bring issue of child right, child act, protection act, and many more. So
Yeah.
when we look at this concept, we need to be very careful and pay much attention in addressing this. At some point, we have different perception, we have our religion factor, we have cultural, our poor educational system, and inadequate social protection systems are all major challenges which are triggering the issues of child labor law and regulations. I would like to bring your attentions based on the 2003 Child Rights Act, which is currently the most comprehensive child rights protections law, and the Labor Act of 1990 prohibit child labor in Nigeria. So when we
Okay.
look at this, it actually prohibited the child labor in Nigeria since 1990, which was the act that was presented in 2003. So when we look at it, in fact, the implementation of Child Rights Act, which was made in 2017, appears that this is not the first time a bill to protect children was proposed, but it is obvious that previous efforts did not beat the goal. The truth is that the root of this problem are much deeper. We can assert with confidence that the implementation of international acts could be only tool in this struggle. It is necessary to solve several tasks at once, not only at the legislative area. So when we look at this, when we look at the context of what I said right now, so
yeah,
the Child Right Act is not the only way of us to solve the issue of child labor and street begging in Nigeria. These are things that was already proposed years ago. Poverty, cultural and religious factors, poor educational systems, inadequate social protection systems, and wrong perception and ignorance of the negative effect of child labor. I could remember the first time we introduced the issue of Child Right Act when we were having a sensitization and awareness creation. Someone was like, this is something like it's a taboo based on his own perception and understanding that this can be an avenue for children to start disrespecting their parents and many more. So this is the angle and the concept and the way he is taking some of the Child Right Act from his own angle of understanding and his own perception. So some people are very ignorant. They understand and know the consequences of child labor and street begging, but they don't care whether something good or bad will happen is none of their business. Some happens to be as a result of a what? Of a child, an orphan, maybe a lady or a woman is living with an orphan. She's very poor, so she can use that child as a way of survival, whereby he will be the one working to be finding a means of livelihood for her and the rest of the family member. So these are one of the major challenges in addressing the issue of Child Labor Act. And at times our religions do differ in our understanding of some of the concept. So I think these are some of the major challenges. And our education system, as I earlier stated, we give more of our value on the concept and aspect of qualification rather than the skills. So I think this is a great avenue for us to know how we can be engaging with some of the stakeholders and how we can be engaging with the educational stakeholders in seeing how our education will be going with our current needs and our current demand in our country or some of our locations, because it's a contextual issue which we need to address. So an inadequate social protection is one of the what major challenges. Some people are even going further to look at what happened at some point. Some are not even having some of the major right, and for you us to address that, some will be even questioning you. If we stop our children from going to go and hawk, for them to be engaging in other child labor aspect, what do you have for us that is going to be taking care of us? So these are some of the major issues that is affecting us in addressing the child labor and the implementation, which was all induced by the level of poverty we are having in the country and the level of illiteracy we are having in the country. These are some of the major factors actually.
all right. Thank you so much, Yahuza, for this. This is one of the challenges and our cultural beliefs, all those beliefs that we have are the major barriers in the major barrier in which we there are barriers and challenges for enforcing child labors laws and regulation. So thank you so much for elaborating on this. And some of these challenges, I think that we on our own we can't eradicate all these challenges except if we join hands together, like the example you just raised, that okay, if a single mother been raising a lot of children, then definitely the children will have to help her go out to seek for livelihood. So these are the barriers which, if we collectively join our hands together, we will be able to eradicate the issues of child labor and street begging. So thank you so much for this. Um, the next question I'll be asking is there initiative or programs that have been successful in eradicating child labor in Borno State?
Okay, well, to my own understanding, I think to my own belief, there are other interventions which I think the Borno State government has tried in seeing how they can mitigate. You know, as you actually stated or earlier stated, the issue of child labor and street begging is something that you say we cannot eradicate, but we can only mitigate as well. I think if I wanted to share a little bit story of what happens to me, which is very unfortunate. I travel, I think, far around to one of the local government area, I think in Yobe State some years back. It was quite unfortunate when I saw a lady coming into a particular community. When she went to the community, she was asking the community head that she is here to engage herself in street begging for quite a number of days before she leave. I was like, wow, wow. So it's now a interstate threat whereby a person or a woman can be transported to another state or another locations to engage into street begging and many more. So the Borno state government, I think he has actually tried his possible best in seeing how he can combat the issue of children abuse, child labor, child marriage, and street begging in Borno state. I think which he conducted around 2022 in Maiduguri. So, in the eliminating of harmful practice affecting children and progress on policy and practice, he tried his best in the sense that he actually engaged in taking the database of some of the people with disability and coming up with a way of supporting them with incentive as cash for survival, while he even go further by engaging some of the military according to my own findings, where they even engage in an aspect of arresting some of the people that are engaged on the streets and engaging some of their younger children in the street begging and more of the activities. So, but to some extent, I can say most of the interventions are not sustainable in the sense that it's going to be more sustainable and profitable for each and every person's looking at the rate of poverty across our communities. So I think if the government and some of the organizations can come together and come up with an agenda or a better way of addressing these issues, this will go a long way in addressing the issue of child labor and street begging in the state, and through enhancing our educational system and strengthening some of our teachers, and also coming up with profitable economic system that favor each and every person. This can also go in a long way. If possible, I think the government can come up with a way of cash for education, cash for survival, and many more. I think in other countries now they are even going further of taking off all levies in some of the schools, such as such as some of the school fees, uniform, and other levies, which will help in increasing the number of children who are continuing their education, for them to further their education so that they can be more productive and innovative. Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking about this. Yes, a lot of times, and government has tried to see they have eradicate this child labor in the state, but the issue, we don't have the sustainable initiative. Most of the initiative that has been tried has not been sustainable. So I think if government and other organization can join her together and create a sustainable initiatives and program, it will go a long way. So thank you so much, Yahuza, for this. So still
And
I
and
lay.
and
Yes.
and I think one other thing is that I think if the government can have a database of maybe people that are living below some of the, like, for them to know the rate of people that are poor, I think this can help in actually eradicating, and it can help the government in implementing some of their activities in terms of giving support to the people affected in the country, most especially during this inflation period, whereby the government are coming up with palliative and way of reducing the hardship and poverty and cushioning the famine and many more within the community. So had it been the government have an existing database, this will go a long way in addressing such issues. So actually the government are trying their best to see how they can curtail and mitigate the issue of street child labor and street begging. But the see is what that caused the increased number of people engaging into the child labor. And to some extent, I can say some people are having a negative perceptions where the government, I think, need to engage with the NOAA, National Orientation Agency, in creating awareness and sensitizing the people across the community for them to know and understand the importance of skills acquisitions and how they can be able to engage in some of the skill acquisitions. Although when we talk around this, these are some of the major issues or major challenges, whereby in some instances there are some men where they disengage their wife in any of the activity or skill acquisitions programs by saying that no, you are a lady. I think this has to do with gender issue also. I think the government need to put more considerate on the women and girls who are the most people affected during the conflict. I think this can also go a long way in addressing this. And the government should come up with evidence-based approaches in some of their intervention, whereby the need of the people are well captured and some of their concerns are being raised, and the government should create an employability for the people with disability so that we can have an inclusive government whereby they can contribute their quota and they can understand that yeah, we have other alternative. There is always ability in disability. This can go a long way in actually reducing and mitigating the number of child labor and street begging in the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Yabusa, for this. To our audience, please, if you are having any question, you can kindly drop it, and our guest will answer some of your questions. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, last week, this I can say, this question that I will ask you, is just like a follow-up questions because I guess last week we talked about something around the questions, but for that, how can communities work together to create safe and supportive environment for children at risk? Hello, Yahuza, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please, can you come
Okay.
again?
Yes, I said the question is how can communities work together to create safe and supportive environment for children at risk?
Okay, the environment can work in creating safe space children children at risk. I think the first agent of socialization is house, the family, right? So from the family, I think that is what we call the ring of responsibility. After the family, the next place is the neighbor, which is part of the community, and many more. So to do the community awareness programs, safety protocol training, and reporting potential dangers, this can go a long way in actually supporting children at risk in the community. So most at times, some of our major challenges that we usually encountered is in a community will get to understand that a child is finding it so difficult for him to survive. Be it the child is an orphan, nobody cares. A child is not going to school in the community, nobody care. A child can spend his night on the street sleeping, nobody care. So this can actually push the child to start engaging into negative activities. It can make him to fall or be a victim of bad allies, whereby he will engage in other harmful activities or harmful things in the community. And one thing that is actually surprising me actually with our communities is the fact that when someone become a good person, when he grown up, he struggle and grown up and be a better person, everybody will be proud of him by saying that this is our son, this is our son, and many more. While if the child was living abundant and he becomes somebody who is bad, nobody will even like him or wanted to bring him into the farm, into the like community, or welcome him into the community. So one of the key things I wanted to reiterate here is the fact that if the communities did not play their role in creating a safe and supportive environment for the children at risk, these children can turn to become more dangerous and harmful to the community. If we think we are adults, we are safe, we have our younger ones, we have our children, they might not be safe because children feel more comfortable when they are accepted by their peers, not by their parents to some extent. So I think the community are in the better position, are in the better place to create a system which is inclusion for all, whereby they can come up with some major ways in addressing and coming up with a more sustainable and supportive environment for young children by engaging each and every person in the community. The reason why I say so is that part of the community, you can get to realize that there are a number of people who are engaged in other soft skills and other technical skills, maybe mechanic skills and many more. This is where these young children can be engaged the moment they finish their secondary schools. The moment they are above that 18 years, they can be able to start acquiring some other skills. aside from that, some of them can even start learning when they are at tender age, for them to be familiar with some of the skills, and for them to understand and know some of the values of the skills before they even reach 18 years, 19 years, or 20 years. I think this can go a long way if the communities are supportive and creating an enabling environment for all children.
Okay. Thank you so much for saying this. I guess dude, I could just capture some of your answers, and for me, it's just call to action. So I hope our audience, this can be a call to action, and for all of us, where you said a lot of us right now in our community, we tend to neglect each other. If we see a child suffering in the community, we tend to neglect the child. We don't care about the child. But when the child becomes something good in the future, we all will be proud that yes, this is our child, this is someone from our community. But when the person turn out to be a bad negative bad someone in the society, and we tend to run away from it. So these are the things that as a community we need to join hands together to see that if we see each other, we should, like as the saying said, be our brother's keeper. So let's be our brother's keeper in the community. Thank you so much for this call to action. I'm still yet to see questions from our audience. So, but I hope before the end, because we are almost about to round up our section, because this is the last question I will be throwing. So, this last question will be what role can awareness campaign and advocacy play in reducing child labor and street begging in Borno State?
Well, thank you, thank you for the for the question. Actually, I can say that we have already discussed this in our previous discussion last week, but
Yeah.
this come to my notice that I think I need to add more things in seeing how we can address the issue through our advocacy and campaign. As someone who is working in advocacy based organization, whereby we see how we can push and commit and engage some of our policy and decision makers in coming up with best solutions and coming up with some of the best solutions and influencing some of our policy and decision making processes. So I think advocacy, please can you come again? Advocacy and awareness campaign, right?
Yes, advocacy and awareness campaign.
Yeah, so I think awareness, when I was speaking around some of the major challenges I discussed around ignorance, lack of educations, like religions, and many more. So, awareness can create a vital role in informing the community members and community leaders the dangers of child labor. I think through our awareness program, we can decide to make it in more of dramatical way, whereby we can engage some of the community leaders and community members in a form of role play and drama for them to understand and know some of the consequences of child labor. This can go a long way in addressing the issues. Likewise, through advocacy, we can be able to influence policy and decision making in our states, whereby we will engage with some of the community stakeholders and some of the leaders. Maybe the government can decide to say, if I see any child below the age of 18 roaming the street hawking, or maybe engage in a street begging and many more, maybe the government can create a space whereby the child will be kept for free educations and many more. Or maybe the government can decide to maybe reach out to the child by maybe employing some of the guards in reducing some of the street begging and child labor, whereby they will engage the child for him to know where is he coming from, who is his father, who is his parent, for them to understand and know what are some of their needs and some of their demand, so that the government can see how they can be able to address such issues. Like what I think the governor of one state in Nigeria, he discussed around when he make education free in his state. He says that whenever we whenever he see any child roaming the street, he will be meeting the father of the child, I think in the court for a judgment, for him to state the reason why he engaged his child to be roaming the street engaging in child labor, and many more. So I think through this we can be able to influence some of our policies, we can be able to influence some of our decision making in terms of implementation, in terms of execution, in terms of amendment, and many more. So most especially in the aspect of our curriculum, through our advocacy we can be able to strengthen the capacity. We can be able to engage with the government and other stakeholders to see how we can come up with a curriculum which is addressing our current need and current demand. We can also see how we can engage with some of the grassroots community people and community members for us to know their perception and take their input in coming up with a better solutions through the awareness creations, using our jingles, using our radio programs, radio activities, online campaigns, and many more. This will also go a long way in highlighting people for them to understand and know the consequences. I know a situation whereby we are creating awareness on such issues, whereby someone was telling me that I have a number of children who are graduate, but they are currently not employed, they are not working, looking at the labor market and many more. So I have to like, when you empower your children with some of the relevant knowledge and relevant skills, they can be more productive and more innovative. They can be able to stay away from any danger or harm within the community. It was like, wow, that is true and that is right. So through the awareness creation, we can be able to reach out to more people within our community and the state at large. And this will go a long way actually in reducing the impact of child labor and slave begging in the community. Thank you. Hello, I hope I am not talking alone. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?